Thank you so much. Okay, so I am looking to call to order the Foothills Regional Services Commission Landfill Operations Meeting for Monday, April 27th, 2026 at 9:34. We'll go to number 2, the additions to the agenda. I think that there was somebody was looking to move that we, I'll look to move. Do we have to make a motion on moving something around the agenda, or is it like the chair's choice? I'm going to go to Mr. Cameron for that.
I would say it's the chair's prerogative.
Okay, perfect. Okay, good. So I'm going to change the agenda around, shake it up a bit, and we're going to move number 7 will be now come number 5. Number 5 will be number 6. Number 6 will be number 7, and then business as usual for the rest of the agenda. I hope whoever is taking those minutes got that. Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Russell. So now I will be looking for number 3, somebody to make the motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll give you that then.
Shoot, everybody. Gosh, we got a live feed today. I'll take it from, I saw Councillor Martin first, so I will take that motion from Councillor Martin. Any discussion, Councillor Martin?
No, sounds good to me.
Okay, any opposed? And that carries unanimously. We are now going to go to number 4, acceptance of the FRSC minutes from previous meeting. I will look for the motion that the minutes of the meeting held on Monday, March 23rd, 2026 be accepted as presented.
I'll give you that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Estes. Any discussion on it? Would you like to speak in favor or against? Or sorry, any discussion? Do you want to speak to your motion? No? Nope. I see none. Any other discussion? Nope. Anybody opposed? That carries unanimously. And now moving to our new number 5, business. And we will go to 7A. And I will go to Michael Lutz from Avail.
Michelle.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm just going to share my screen here to go through the audit results. Let me know when you can see the PowerPoint presentation on your end. Everyone? Okay, perfect. Thank you for the thumbs up. So what I'm going to be covering today is the independent auditor's report, the financial results. I'll highlight a couple key notes to the financial statements, and then I'll conclude with the management letter and post-audit letter. So starting with the independent auditor's report, it starts off by stating that we have issued a clean audit opinion that the financial statements are presented fairly in accordance with the Canadian Public Sector Accounting Standards. It will go on to note that management is responsible for the financial statements and the board will be responsible for management oversight. Avail's responsibilities as the auditors is to identify and assess the risk of material misstatements. We are to understand the Commission's internal controls. We'll evaluate the accounting policies and estimates used in the financial statements. We'll conclude on the going concern assumption, which is just the ability of the Commission to continue to operate for the foreseeable future. No concerns there. And then we evaluate the presentation of the financial statements in accordance with the accounting standards. But at the end of the day, that clean audit opinion was issued.
Ms. Lust, I'm just gonna interrupt for a second because I absolutely forgot to let everybody know about Frank Lake. If you're here to talk about Frank Lake or hear about it, we're going to come back to that discussion at 10:30 a.m. So feel free to, this is an open meeting. You're welcome to watch Ms. Lutz's presentation and the rest of our meeting, the FRSC meeting, but we will be back at 10:30 to discuss Frank Lake. I should have said that at the beginning. Sorry to interrupt, Ms. Lutz.
No worries at all. Completely understand. So my next part of the presentation will be moving into the financial results. And I am going to be starting with the Frank Lake revenue and expenses. If you are following along in the paper copy, this will be on page 20. So here you're going to see for Frank Lake, overall revenues will be down by $23,000. And that's with other service fees and sales of goods are down by $13,000. $33,000 due to less pumping revenue. Going to be under budget on that line item as pumping revenue is closely tied to expenses and treated as a cost recovery. So as expenses decrease, pumping revenue does as well. And then investment income will be down by $10,000 due to the decrease in interest rates. And on the expense side, expenses will be down by about $32,000. The contracted and general services, really comparable to prior year, decrease from budget will be due to less repairs than anticipated. And also the budget includes $50,000 for unexpected items that may come up during the fiscal year, but was unused during 2025. Then materials, very comparable to the previous year and budget expectations. And then amortization will be down by $33,000 due to a couple pieces of equipment being fully amortized in 2024. So overall deficiency of revenue over expenses coming in at the $44,000. If you were to look at it from a cash perspective, amortization expense is non-cash. So if we were to remove that, Frank Lake would actually be in a surplus. Next, for the schedule of the landfill, this will be on page 19. Landfill revenues overall saw an increase of $2.6 million. The landfill service fees increased by $1.6 million and also going to be up from budget with the increase in tonnage with more commercial jobs and the hydrovac waste. Out of that $1.6 million increase, $1 million of it relates to the hydrovac waste, which is considered a one-off revenue source in 2025. And then other service fees and sales of goods saw an increase of $217,000 and also going to be up from budget with the increase in scrap metal, compost sales, and household hazardous waste. And investment income was also up by $765,000 and up from budget with higher gains on sales of bonds in 2025. Then the gain on disposal of tangible capital assets of $71,000 relates to a sale of the 2017 Mack roll-off truck. So overall revenues land at $9.3 million. Then on the expense side, expenses will be up by $258,000. Salaries, wages, and benefits saw an increase of $75,000 with the cost of living increases and then an additional hire that was made. Contracted and general services are going to be up by $196,000 and also up from budget due to an increase in work contracted for the leachate hauling and the hazardous waste disposals and more equipment repairs. Materials saw a decrease of $60,000 with less fuel and oil, with purchasing fuel in bulk and also gas prices dropping in 2025. And then the last fluctuation in expenses is going to be the interest on long-term debt. You're going to see down from budget on that line item as the commission budgeted for a $5 million loan for the shop construction, but then it was later decided to fund through operations. So overall expenses land at $4.9 million, which gives the landfill a current year surplus of the $4.4 million. Then to go to the statement of operations, this will be on page 5, and it will summarize Frank Lake and the landfill together. And overall, the operating surplus lands at the $4.3 million figure, which is the $4.4 million from the landfill, less the $45,000 deficit from Frank Lake. And I will just pause there for any questions so far.
Anybody have any questions for Ms. Lutz so far? I can't see hands. No, I don't see any.
Okay, wonderful. So next I'll move into the statement of cash flows, which will be on page 8. So this will just give you show you what the financial results look like from a cash basis. So overall operating transactions generated positive cash flow of $5.4 million. increase over the previous year is going to be due to the increase in the current year operating surplus. And then under capital transactions, the commission spent $2 million on capital in 2025, which was slightly offset from the proceeds received on the disposal of the truck. The large capital purchases this year relate to the new shop construction of $1.5 million, a Freightliner of $320,000, and then an F-150 truck of $50,000. And then under investing transactions, the commission disposed of $2 million of investments, which is essentially funding the current year capital costs. And then under financing transactions, the commission has repaid $25,000 in debt, lower debt payment this year, as that was the last of the debt to be paid off. So overall, there's an increase in cash of $5.5 million, bringing cash at the end of the year to $14.1 million. Then for the statement of financial position, this will be on page 4 in the financials. So here, overall financial assets will be up by $3.5 million. That will be due to the increase in cash of the $5.5 million, offset by the disposal of investments of the $2 million as per the statement of cash flows. And then on the liability side, liabilities are going to be down by $247,000. Accounts payable had a decrease of $277,000, with less payables owing at year-end relating to the new shop construction. Here is where we're going to see that long-term debt being paid out. And then the asset retirement obligation had a small increase of $56,000, which is just due to $112,000 of accretion expense, which is essentially an inflation factor that represents the passage of time, offset by $56,000 in reclamation work performed on a couple of the cells during the year. So when you take the financial assets less liabilities, overall the commission has a net financial position of $31.3 million for an increase of $3.8 million over the previous year. This net financial asset indicator will represent the amount available to fund future operations. And then for non-financial assets, overall will be up by $603,000, which is mainly due to the increase in tangible capital assets, with the $2 million in capital purchases offset by $1.4 million in amortization. And then that will leave the commission with a total accumulated surplus landing at $44.6 million as of year end. The increase from 2024 up to 2025 is going to equal the current year operating surplus of $4.4 million that we saw on the statement of operations. And then just to show the breakdown of accumulated surplus, this will be one of the notes in the financial statements, note 7, page 14. So out of the current year operating surplus of the $4.4 million, it's broken down with a $2.5 million increase to unrestricted surplus, $1.2 million increase to reserves, and then a $581,000 increase to equity and tangible capital assets. Overall, the commission's financial position continues to be healthy, increase in accumulated operating surplus over the prior year, and no concerns from an audit perspective, continues to have good financial position there. And then the last note before I get into the audit letters, I thought I would just highlight the reserves, which are on page 14. So this will just show the breakdown that the board and management has internally restricted for future purposes. I will note reserves are also fully funded, cash covered, which is another healthy financial indicator of the commission. And I will just pause there before I get into my audit letters. Any questions?
I don't see anybody's hand up. Nope, I think continue on.
Okay, so my next
Excuse me, there was a question from Director Martin.
Oh.
Just can you just refresh my memory on the long-term debt? Was that all related to the building of the shop?
Let me see here.
I think it was like $25,000.
Yeah, 25. Yeah, we just have that was fully paid off, and I don't have a schedule this year because of the debt being gone. Oh, actually, I have a document here. But it doesn't say what the debt was used for.
I believe that was when we borrowed money to pay for the compost pad when they built the composting pad like 15 years ago, and we were slowly.
Oh, okay.
Like
Okay.
$50,000 a year.
Oh, okay. So it was broken down like yearly debt payments. Is that correct?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for that.
Okay.
Any more questions, or just we should move on? I don't see any. Let's move on.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. So my next part is just the management letter and post-audit letter. I typically leave this up to the board if you would like to have this in camera or continue with it in the public presentation. I will note there isn't anything of significance that I have on the letters this year.
Councillors, anybody have any problem with us having management here? I see. Okay, I don't see anybody. Nope, it looks good.
Okay, wonderful.
So go ahead.
So for the first one, it's just going to be our management letter, and we have no significant recommendations to bring to your attention today. And we do want to thank the team at Foothills County for all of their hard work in prepping for the audit and going through the audit year after year. They do a wonderful job and appreciate all of the effort put in. And then for the post-audit letter, it's about 4 to 5 pages long. It essentially summarizes the results of our examination. The key items I've already touched on throughout the presentation, but the items that I still need to communicate is that we didn't come across any illegal acts or fraud, no disagreements with management, no difficulties encountered during the audit. As mentioned, the audit is very much a true audit and very well prepared. And then the post-audit letter will conclude with an emerging issues section, which is essentially the future accounting standards and auditing standards coming into place during all for the 2026 fiscal year. So the first one is just going to be the financial statement presentation. Next year, the financial statements will look a little bit different, where the statement of financial position will look more like a traditional balance sheet where all of the financial assets and non-financial assets are grouped together, less liabilities to arrive at accumulated surplus. Right now, the presentation is based on the net asset, net debt presentation, where that net asset indicator will be its own statement going forward. And then the conceptual framework isn't a standard in itself, but it's the framework for what the standards are built off of. Essentially, it will just go into details as to what a public sector entity is and all the definitions of what an asset is or a liability under the public sector entity standards. And then the last one is going to be the Canadian Auditing Standard 570 going concern. This standard is already in place. It's just being revised in 2026. So you may recall on the independent auditor's report that we have concluded that the commission has the ability to continue for the foreseeable future. So next year, what will have to happen under the revised standard is that a more formal assessment will have to be done by management, where we have to be provided a memo as to their views on the going concern assumption, and then we'll audit and review it. So all items just to be aware of for the next fiscal year. And that essentially concludes my presentation. Any other questions?
All right. Any questions for Ms. Lutz? I can't really see all of our squares all at once. Let me just scroll down here. Oh my gosh, you had a great presentation today, Ms. Lutz. There seems to be, oh, there we go. There doesn't seem to be any questions. Going once, going twice. I think that's it. Just great presentation. Sorry about your name at the beginning.
Oh, don't even worry about it.
I'm leaving on vacation tomorrow, and I think my brain has already boarded the train and is halfway across the country. So
no worries. No worries at all.
Perfect. Okay. Any other questions? Do we need a motion to accept this? Yes? Okay. So I will look at a motion to accept the 2025 draft financial statement and presentation as presented. Anyone? Oh, I see Councillor Nychuk. Would you like to speak to your motion?
No speaking to the motion, just happy to provide it for you.
Perfect, thank you. Any discussion? I see none. Anybody opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Lutz.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for having me today. It was a pleasure. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we will move, I'll be happy to move us on to, I don't know if it's 7B or 5B, but Ms. Russell will figure that out in the minutes later. So we will move on to operations update by Mr. Angevine.
Okay, thank you. Let me get my notes here. Okay, so some updates from last month. The new shop is moving along. They're still pretty slow, but it is making progress, slow and steady. And what they are doing is looking pretty good. So they just finished pouring all the concrete, and that went well. A couple small little details where the concrete was a little low in spots, but they have plans to address that. But all in all, it looks really nice, and the shop is coming along, and quite a beautiful building actually. So yes, our staff are going to be quite happy when that's all said and done. They've now moved on to framing and interior work. Electrical and all that type of stuff is starting to take shape now on the inside of the building. So yeah, we're hoping to be into the building by sometime in June still. So that's kind of the schedule, but everything's moving along well, and no major issues to report on that front. The phyto remediation pad project is also moving ahead well. I've had meetings with Alberta Environment, and the first draft of the RAMO's final report, which will be what is submitted to Alberta Environment, was submitted and reviewed by myself, by Harry, and by Vihan. So that's moving along, and they should be issuing the final report, which would be shared with the board, coming up here shortly. I'm hoping in the next month here. I actually have a meeting this afternoon as well with the University of Calgary rep that's interested in doing some research on the project. So there's a lot of interest in this. I was just at a conference too in downtown Calgary, and there was a ton of questions about this project. Everyone seems to be pretty interested in the industry, so it's going to be an interesting one for sure. I also at that conference presented on our BioCover, which we've worked on the last few years. And again, a lot of interest in that as kind of it's the first ET BioCover in Alberta of that size and scale. And so there's quite a bit of interest as a lot of the sites that have more kind of the old school clay cap approach are finding that they're not working very well. So yeah, I think it's looking like we made the right choice there going with the ET BioCover. Obviously that can change over the years as things settle and you get erosion, all those types of things, but so far so good. It's looking pretty good on that project as well. Our combined position with the salvage center was hired and has started working on site, so that's going pretty well. I haven't heard any complaints yet. I got to catch up. Just got back in today, like I said, from a conference, but from what I heard from the staff and stuff, that's going well. And the salvage center seems to be happy as well. We finished crushing all the concrete, as you'll see in the invoices there. So that went well. The unit that can also shred the mattresses was able to do all that. It's a really small unit too, so the guy's pretty quick on that thing. But so that went well. We had struggled to find someone to crush our concrete for 2 years now, so that was nice to be able to finally get that done. And then also to dual purpose, we'll shred the mattresses here on site as well and save a bunch of money from the previous CCAN approach that we had been using. Yeah, I already mentioned the conference. Next up on our to-do list is compost screening. We've just been waiting for the weather to dry, and as I'm sure you all know, that doesn't seem to be happening. So every time it dries up on site, all of a sudden we get a big dump of snow, and we're right back where we started. But that's the next project we'll be working on, is screening the compost, and then we'll start mixing for the final section of the biocover, as well as start to build the phytoremediation pad for the willows up top. We'll probably hold off on that one until we get approval from Alberta Environment, but they've basically already told us verbally that they're quite interested in that project and seeing it move ahead. So I don't see any problems. Only potential issues will be budgetary, but again, assuming we get grant money and stuff like that, I don't see a problem there as well. Project should pay for itself in a matter of 3 to 4 years, probably on savings for leachate hauling and things of that nature. So, so everything's going well. And the hydrovac, we're kind of on pace from where we were last year at this time of year, kind of looking good again for hydrovac this year. So we're hoping that there's still some work to be done in High River apparently as well, and some pipeline work. So we're hoping to have another strong year for hydrovac, which was kind of unexpected bonus revenue last year, and it looks like it's going to continue into this year to be another strong year for hydrovac revenue. So I would say we're shaping up for a good year. And we just had you'll see on the tonnage reports, there's a big drop off from last year on dirt. That was the big drop off in the commercial tonnage that you see on the reports there. Because we had a big dirt job last year, kind of in March and February, I believe. And nothing so far this year, but we just had a bunch of loads come in here this last week. So we've had some dirt jobs hauling in as well. So that should help us next month when we start to see the revenue come in from that. So all is going well, and we're busy at the landfill.
Thank you, Manager Angevine. Angevine, right? Yeah, perfect. Good. I got it. Any questions for Joe? Oh, I'll go to Councillor Martin.
Just one quick question, and I don't even know if you can answer this. I was recently asked, is there any place around that sells compost that people could put into their garden?
I believe Catapult is selling their compost. They're out of Alderside. They're the new composting facility, commercial composting facility in the region. I believe they sell it. I'm not sure if they sell it to residents, but I believe they're selling it to farmers and stuff like that. The other one would be, there's an option, Dirt Cheap out of Alderside sells compost as well. And they typically will sell the blended topsoil. They used to buy from us the compost, but I know they still sell blended topsoil and compost. And the other option is that I'm aware of is Soil Kings out of South Calgary. So Dirt Cheap is a local option, and Soil Kings is one out of South Calgary.
So that's where a resident could actually go and buy a load of compost.
I believe so. I know Dirt Cheap has a yard. I believe the customers can actually drive into their yard. And Soil Kings, I think, does deliveries as well.
So this is nothing that the landfill does at all?
No, and right now we we're not really following the CFIA standards for the compost because we're just using it on site for the cap. That's typically if you're selling it to be used for growing food and stuff like that, you need to worry about those standards. So because we've just been using it all on site, we haven't worried about doing all that extra CFIA stuff. So right now I can't sell it to the public.
Okay. Thank you very much for that information.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Any other questions? I see none. I always forget. Do we receive that as information, Mr. Cameron? Is that, yeah, okay. So I look for a motion to receive the operations update as presented. I see that from Councillor Mitchell. Any discussion, Councillor Mitchell? Nope, none there. Anybody else? I see none. Anybody opposed? And that carries unanimously. Perfect. Roundtable discussion. Any roundtable discussion today? I see none. Perfect. So we are going to go to the new number 6, accounts payable. I'm sure everybody read it. Any discussion on the accounts payable? The new number 6? Oh, we'll go to Councillor Martin.
For the remediation feasibility study, pardon me, that is part of that would be the first step in applying for the grant application?
So yeah, they've kind of already started the process of the grant applications. So as part of this whole thing, it's basically to finalize the package that will be submitted to Alberta Environment for approval of the project, as well as not quite final engineering, but pretty much last steps of engineering, and as well as helping determine the feasibility for grant applications, whether or not we would qualify, which they've already done a bunch of that work, and we've actually already started the process of that. So yeah, it's looking good on all fronts.
That's great. And then the cost of the feasibility study would be part of the grant. Would be.
I don't believe so. I think we just approved. It was like $40,000 or something in that range for this final kind of study, and this gets us up to the line of getting an approval. At which point, then we would have to do like a final engineering stage.
Okay.
This gets us like 80 to 90% of the way there.
Okay. No, that sounds good. And the Chimera, I probably said that incorrectly. Consultants, is that the environmental report?
So that's all the groundwater analysis that we have to do twice a year. So he does all the sampling and then the lab work, and then the he has to give us independent thoughts on what's happening with our groundwater and all that stuff like that.
And okay, that sounds good. I don't have any more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Any other questions? I see none. Would somebody like to make the motion that the accounts payable dated April 27th, 2026 in the amount of $887,929.49 be accepted for payment? I see.
Go ahead.
I'll take that motion from Councillor Estes. Thank you. Any discussion, Councillor Estes?
No.
Any discussion from anybody else for or against this motion? I see none. Anybody opposed? And that carries unanimously. We are now going to go on to the new number 7, tonnage reports. Any questions regarding tonnage reports? I see Councillor Martin. Going to you.
It appears like all the tonnage is down. Is that just like the time of year?
The biggest thing on the commercial side is we had a big dirt job last year. So when you're comparing the tonnage to last year, it's kind of apples to oranges because we haven't had one of those this year yet. So yeah, typically if you see like a really big drop off with commercial tonnage like that from one year to the next, it's usually because we had some kind of a big dirt job. Last year we took in a bunch of impacted soils from around Cochrane. And so yeah, we haven't had a big job like that this year yet. So that's the difference there. But if you look at the garbage this year so far to date compared to last year, it's pretty much the same.
And for the communities as well, there's a little bit of a shift in numbers, but not a whole bunch.
Yeah, you get some variability from year to year like that typically. So unless you see really big spikes or drop offs, it's usually just kind of random.
Yeah, it's pretty stable. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Any more discussion or questions regarding tonnage reports?
I can give you the motion if you would like.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so Councillor Martin is going to make the motion that tonnage reports for the month of March 2026 be accepted as presented. Is that correct, Councillor Martin?
Yes.
Okay, any discussion?
No.
Okay, perfect. Anybody else? Discussion? I see none. Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Perfect. So now we're back on track by going to number 8. Next regular meeting is scheduled to be held on May 25th, 2026 at 9:30 a.m. via Zoom virtual meeting. And now I'll go to number 9, adjournment. Would anybody like to make the motion that this meeting be adjourned at 10:08 April 27th, 2026? Councillor Nychuk, I saw that first. Any discussion? Probably not. None. Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Again, sorry, my brain was on vacation. I struggled through this. And Ms. Russell, I trust that you're going to get these minutes perfect. So we'll come back for 10:30. Is that right, Ms. Stanley?
Yeah, if I may, I'm going to put the YouTube into a break and then we'll start the Frank Lake meeting at 10:30.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much. See you then for who's going to be there.
Good morning. Welcome to the Foothills Regional Services Commission meeting. This is specifically for the wastewater operations side. This is Monday, April 27th, and we're 10:33 a.m. calling the meeting to order. I'll look to members of the committee or administration for any additions to the agenda at this time. Not seeing or hearing any. We'll move forward with the agenda as presented, with the exception of taking item 6C and moving it to the forefront so that we can have our presentation and discussion surrounding Frank Lake with the stakeholders that are present. And then we'll move into the rest of the agenda following that. If I can have somebody make a motion to adopt the agenda with that little amendment that I made right there, that would be great.
I'll give you that motion.
Thanks you, Councillor Estes. Asking for any opposed. Not seeing any. That is passed. Thank you, and the agenda is adopted. And we'll move right on to item 6C, which is now our forefront item, Frank Lake stakeholders discussion. And as Harry mentioned, we had somebody that had a presentation. So sorry, again, I don't have the detail of who is going to be speaking there in front of me. So my apologies for it being a little bit loose right now. Did I misunderstand you, Harry? I thought you said there was somebody that was going to be.
No, it's Amy Marcotte would be making the presentation. And so we'd have to allow her, I believe, to share her screen, and you would need to unmute.
The screen share has been activated.
Can't hear Amy.
You see the screen? Sorry. Can you see the screen?
I can see the screen.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So everybody's got the Frank Lake page.
That is correct.
Okay,
Yep.
Thank you. That's all I need to make sure. Good day, everyone. My name is Amy Marca. I'm with the Frank Lake Stewardship Committee, and I'm also the Ducks Unlimited volunteer specifically for Frank Lake. Last minute, I will let everybody know that my supervisor, Ducks, Maddie, is very sick. So she gave me the permission to speak also on behalf of Ducks up to a certain extent. So I just wanted to make that clear. So my name is Amy Marcotte. I'm with the Frank Lake Stewardship Committee. I'm the chair, and I'm also the Ducks Unlimited volunteer specifically for Frank Lake. I am also responsible for the key and unlocking the gates. So with that, I have to take in road maintenance. I also check for the duck blind and boardwalk for maintenance and any other requirements that Ducks has me doing. On the stewardship committee, I'm also under the Nature Calgary for the chair for the program for the IBA and KBA caretaker. A little bit of the history of Frank Lake. So Frank Lake, back in the 1950s, was very interested in the area due to ducks and with their interest in promoting ducking, hunting, and other areas on conservation. In the 1960s, Calgary Field Natural Society, which is now called Nature Calgary, has been involved with Frank Lake with different birding walks and other activities promoting the nature and biodiversity. In around 1998, when Ducks Unlimited, Alberta Environment, town of High River and other stakeholders were in consultations for finding a solution to help with the influx of water that was needed to stabilize the water at Frank Lake, because at times Frank Lake would be a dry bed. So with that, it came into discussions with having treated outflow coming from both the town of High River and Cargill going into Frank Lake as a discharge point, and it helped stabilize the water. In 1997, Frank Lake becomes an IBA, which is an important bird area for its amount of bird congregations. So at Frank Lake, we have a total documented of 257 bird species, 60 of which are protected both provincially under the Wildlife Act and also under SAR, which is the federal act. In 2012 and 2015, there was consultations regarding the Alta-Link power line going from northern Alberta to southern Alberta, and Foothills Substation 237 was put in the IBA on the northern end of Frank Lake and has been an ongoing irritant to the different organizations regarding that situation. Going to 2021, Foothills Solar, which was proposed in and around Frank Lake, was before the AUC, which was 27486. And then ultimately that project was denied because of its concern regarding environmental pressures. In 2022, Frank Lake was designated as a KBA, which is a key biodiversity area. Following in that was the Larmay battery storage, which was in 2023. They are proposing just north or just kitty corner to the Foothills substation, and that is ongoing, and we should have a ruling on that proceeding, which is 28906 on the 30th. So I believe that's this Thursday. Then in 2025, the long-term caretaker, Greg Wagner, suddenly passed away. I was involved with Nature Alberta and Birds Canada to try and get a new organization to take over the KBA and IBA criteria for this area due to the Larmay project before the AUC. Then Nature Calgary took over, and then I was notified from Birds Canada of who was taking over, and then I proceeded to continue the work that I followed under my mentor, which was the late Greg Wagner. So here's some information about the IBA. Frank Lake was designated as an IBA based on a significant number of bird congregations during the breeding season, which is 257 bird species, and the presence of at-risk species. So we have about 60 documented different species at Frank Lake that have different requirements under the Wildlife Act and also under the SAR Act. Frank Lake covers a whole area of 101 square kilometers. So where people think that Frank Lake is just small, it's only a piece of it. It's actually bigger than what people assume. And then when I do tours and show them around, they're like, wow, we didn't realize it was that big. Yeah, it's pretty big because it takes in all the biodiversity. This area has no legal protection. However, it does have implications for development near sites. So this is where under the Foothills Solar AUC proceeding 27486, this is where under the wildlife regulations for solar projects, it was 100.1.1 where there is a regulation for solar projects with an IBA where they have to be 1,000 meters away from the boundary of an IBA. So that was highly contingent and very well documented in that proceeding on how that regulation was basically enforced with the AUC. Frank Lake boundaries go as far north as 498 Ave, as far south in between 594 Ave East and 625 Ave East, and as far west as 152th Street East, and as far west as the 162th Street East. So that hopefully with those road marks gives you an idea of how big this area is.
Can I cut in with a question?
Yes.
Or do you want questions after? Who designated?
I was hoping questions afterwards, if that was okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Frank Lake KBA. So this is a new federal and international kind of development, or how would you describe it? It's a new kind of, it's still in its infancies for this program. So this program was designed under 13 international organizations to promote biodiversity and to prevent the loss, because there is so much biodiversity that is being lost, and they want to try and encompass and try and protect it, because if we lose these areas, it's very detrimental to both us and our wildlife, and also for future generations to enjoy. So Frank Lake is internationally recognized. It's also internationally recognized also under the IBA program. The major differences between the KBA and IBA is that the KBA program is focused on a broader standard of biodiversity, and the IBA was focused on birds. So with the KBA program, it encompasses everything. It encompasses the flora, the fungi, the bugs, the insects, the birds, and everything else. So it takes all that data and puts it in together. And then that way too, we have an idea of what more is here, because we can have endangered plant species, endangered bugs, like we have here at Frank Lake. We do have tiger salamanders here, which are also on a risk basis. So taking more of the biodiversity and putting it together and having it as in a way of a catalog in an international wise helps get this area more recognized, because currently right now it is under recognized for how important it is. So the more designations we can get for this area, the more that people go, oh wow, we didn't know this, the more and it promotes also a broader understanding of why certain areas like we have with the Frank Lake is very important. The KBAs that were once IBAs use the same established boundaries set by the IBA criteria, because that was already based on a scientific set of standards. So basically they take the standard and just apply it with the new KBA program. So Frank Lake was identified as a KBA in September of 2022. So it's just new. Economic benefits for Frank Lake. Frank Lake gets international visitors. I have visitors contact me currently wondering when the gate is open. So I've had people, and I've talked to people with the, because I've been the Ducks Unlimited volunteer since 2024. So I have been talking to people from Japan, Europe, you name it. It gets very busy here. And then back before COVID, there was different tourist companies in Calgary that was promoting different birding hotspots. Frank Lake was part of that. So it gets well used and it gets very busy. During COVID, we've had hundreds of people come out a day enjoying nature and just enjoying it. And even right now, even despite with the gate still being closed because the road is still not safe to open, that whole area is busy, and I've got traffic and everything else that I've got to try and manage. So that is very important. And of course, too, with Frank Lake having the benefits of the treated outflow coming in, so it provides other benefits. One thing I want to make sure that everybody is well aware of is that Frank Lake also provides a wider base of economic benefits. So we have tourists. I have one tourist right now that keeps calling me every so often. It's from 100 Mile House. They are wanting to come to Frank Lake for the birdings, and they're wanting to stay at hotels. They already told me they're going to be staying in Okotoks. So once again, this provides an economic benefit to the area, which also spins off into mom and pop shops, and also spins off to provide economic benefit, because we have to remember Frank Lake is part of the $12 billion tourist industry here in Alberta. So this provides a wider base of economic benefit than what people realize. When I was working at the restaurant here in Blackie back in my younger years, we would get people coming to the Prairie Harvest Family Restaurant in the mornings, coming for a cup of coffee and going back to Frank Lake. So once again, it provides an economic benefit that is underutilized and under-recognized. Also recently, I just got a reach out, and I did last week a 90-minute tour with the Turner Valley School for Frank Lake, which follows their curriculum. And thus, once again, it provides a broader benefit to all the students, people, wildlife, tourists. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows that Frank Lake gets very busy and it's under-recognized to how much it provides in a benefit for economic spin-offs for the county and also the province. Basin 1. So Basin 1 is where you will have the main gate. It comes off of 530 Ave. We are currently working for signage, so please keep an eye out for that. Out there, we have the treated outflow area, which you can see an image on your bottom left. We have nesting islands. Those I will speak on further in this presentation. We have the bird blind, which you can see on the top of your photos, which also has an information inside of the duck blind on different duck species, bat species, and other species that can be found at Frank Lake. We, of course, have the boardwalk, and then once the road is repaired and I'm able to open the gates to make sure it's safe, the porta potties will be installed once again this year and closely monitored with also garbage. Basin 2 and 4, this is where we have the different levels of drainage. So when Basin 1 gets to a certain level, it self-drains into Basin 2. And then when Basin 2 reaches a certain level, it drains into Basin 4 and it further goes down the line. So it's self-regulating. So this is how it's monitored for water. And if it reaches to a certain designated, it self-regulates. So we don't have to worry about that too much. It's more nature-driven atmosphere. So when I go to this area, it's a lot more quiet because you're not dealing with the highway of 23 and that's traffic noise. I find more species of birds here. Western grebes are very popular in this area. I have noticed breeding couples here. And just the scenic views are very nice. It's just sometimes it's a little pain to get at because there's no designated parking lot for this area. So it's an maintenance roads. So we just kindly try and let people know that if you're going to park, just park on the road to a certain point, because if you go beyond that, you're going to run into a lot of troubles. And then, of course, we have Basin 3. This is where it drains into the canal. It's also monitored by Alberta Environment. That's the little station that you see at the top of your page. It gets decent foot traffic because it also has a parking lot and information site. And also, too, recently when I was there doing some documentation, I counted between 6,000 to 10,000 different bird species. But they're all congregated because right now it's migration season. So they're coming up and it's been extremely busy there. The partnership between Nature Calgary and Ducks Unlimited. Ducks Unlimited Canada is the site landowner and manager. So anything the committee does, we have to make sure we go to Ducks Unlimited first. So when the committee comes before council for different requests, we have already received permission from Ducks Unlimited to make sure that we're following also their protocol. They're still responsible for maintenance of the infrastructure, so the road, duck blinds, the boardwalk, the fence line, and the gate, and that's all their maintenance. So I have to report that also to Ducks when I notice issues, and then they put that on their maintenance request. Nature Calgary is the IBA and KBA caretaker organizations. The monitoring of special projects, advocacy, and also we do promoting other conservation projects like the BAT program, the bee program, and that. So what we are doing is we're following on the principles of conservation while also following how this area is important. So with that comes into a partnership where we work closely on site stewardship. Nature Calgary projects, once again, are developed with Ducks Unlimited awareness and support. So all projects before we install them are given permission by Ducks Unlimited. We have a MOU currently. It's done being developed. We're just waiting currently for the higher ups to sign it, and then that's all approved because I've discussed that with Maddie, and so we've moved forward. We're just waiting for the signatures, which can take a bit, and then that's finalized. Both organizations bring different strengths and capabilities that are essential to long-term stewardship of Frank Lake. Because Ducks Unlimited is very limited to their scope because they have so much land and so many different sites, they are very happy that the Stewardship Committee has come in to help with that. Now, this is based for the Stewardship Committee. So after Nature Calgary was asked by Birds Canada and Nature Alberta to take over the caretaking, that was determined by the committee, and the committee was determined we should take over. Pardon me. This would mean that that this committee was dedicated by volunteers who are focused solely on Frank Lake. So the committee, even though we're under Nature Calgary, we are strictly focused on Frank Lake. Nature Calgary is just the organization that takes all our documentations because of the situation we ran into because of the former caretaker. He was one person. And then when he suddenly passed away, we lost all that information. So what I worked with Nature Alberta and Birds Canada is with us going back and forth, we worked on having an organization, because then if an organization takes over, then we have all of that documentation saved, and not just one person holds it, it's the organization itself. So this way that data in the long term will not be lost and it can be easily accessed. So that's why, even though the organization is under Nature Calgary, it is strictly the Stewardship Committee that is the sole responsibility of Frank Lake. We don't do anything else. So all the projects, all of our advocacy, education, and doing tours is strictly through the committee. Nature Calgary is just there as the, you might say, the figurehead for holding and basically safeguarding the data collection. So if anything happens with, say, different changeovers with the committee, none of that data is lost. So we are basically starting over with our data collection. I do have some information that I did get from Greg before his passing, but we're basically starting from scratch because, once again, him having all that data and him passing away suddenly, we lost a lot of information. So this is why when the committee once again comes before Foothills Council, it's just a figurehead of Nature Calgary. It's not technically Nature Calgary, it is the Stewardship Committee, because that's all we do is Frank Lake. With that, it also helps with Ducks Unlimited. Ducks Unlimited Canada cannot allocate funds directly to Frank Lake. This is where the committee steps in, being able to allocate to Frank Lake. All grant and project funding for Frank Lake stays and is used at Frank Lake only, and is not used anywhere else. This was brought up when the committee made a request for the Persian cart cleanup, that there was concerns regarding funding and it going to Nature Calgary. And I'm also here to reiterate, yes, yes, Nature Calgary holds our funding, but once again, it is the committee that is utilizing it. We can't just hold the funding ourselves, because once again, we are a subcommittee under Nature Calgary, and they're the ones who have the registered charitable status, and they also have all the other stuff for us to tap into so that we can get more grant funding and other funding to help with our projects with Frank Lake. So I wanted to make sure that everybody is well aware that Ducks Unlimited, when you donate to Ducks Unlimited, it doesn't go to just that specific site. It goes to the broader site. So this is where a lot of misconception where it was and frustration with different people with Frank Lake when they donated to Ducks. And they're like, well, we donated this, but why aren't we seeing this at Frank Lake? Well, this is why. So now when people donate, they can donate to the committee specifically, because that is all we do. Everything is Frank Lake. All the funding, all the grants, all the donations go specifically to Frank Lake. We have that ability, unlike Ducks. So when we request different things, I wanted to make it very known that it is specifically for Frank Lake, nothing else. And even though people say, well, it's Nature Calgary, yes, Nature Calgary holds it, but we are responsible. We have our own budget. We have to also account for everything when we use that grant funding. conservation projects going on at Frank Lake. I know this has been a very interesting topic with different members of your committee, and also the broader scope with different projects, especially the island rehabilitation that is going on. So I will touch on that further. So we have the island rehabilitation project, we have the community bat program, we have the native bees, we have bird biodiversity, which is iNaturalist, we have bird surveys, we have native and invasive plant program, we have the nesting platforms, so I will touch a bit on that. This is the biggest topic for everybody here at this committee, is the island rehabilitation. So right now, currently, you have a before, which is at your bottom, and we have an after, which is currently the state of the islands. Now, the islands, we are wanting to rehabilitate to an extent where they're back as much as possible to their original state. The reason being is because if we lose these islands, we lose a lot of bird species that are very beneficial to the lake, because we do have invasive carp here. So island number 2, which is the furthest one away from the outflow, is highly used by pelicans, the cormorants, and other bird species that use the fish. So we want to try and find a natural base, because we don't want chemicals and that being put in the lake to try and deal with the carp. So we're trying to find natural ways of doing it. And Ducks Unlimited Canada is working on different strategies to help with the carp. But this right now is basically trying to rehabilitate what has been lost. Now, due to the outflow, which we have no control, and I wanted to reiterate to everybody here, we're not touching the outflow. We are not changing the flow. We are not closing it. We are not shutting it down. All we are doing is doing rehabilitation of the islands. So we're trying to restore them while also putting in preventatives to prevent the erosion. So it's going to take some time for us to work on it, because right now we are currently doing proposals. Ducks Unlimited is very involved because they are also the landowner for this. And we are just trying to figure out different ways to try and not lose the islands, because once again, they provide such a benefit in biodiversity in this area that is unimaginable. And once again, if they are lost, we lose a lot of bird species, and that's not what we want. We want to try and conserve them. So we are going to be working on both the islands for restoration, and I wanted to also make it clear to everybody, we'll be following all regulations, all permits, and that will be submitted. So please make sure that, we will make sure that we are following all regulations. We do have a special projects manager specifically for the island rehabilitation. His name is Stevie. He is a part of this. So if you have specific questions for him on that, he can speak more, even though him and I have been tag teaming with different proposals for this island rehabilitation. We have the community bat program. Currently, we have one duck or one bat box at Frank Lake. We got permission from Ducks Unlimited. We have been working with Susan Holt, I believe her name is. She is the bat biologist with the Wildlife Conservation Society. On also note, they are also part of the KBA program of the 13 organizations. We have worked with our bat program, and we have all met the requirements. We are going to be putting the bat boxes up in the fall, because right now we can't do that because it's upland nesting season at Frank Lake. So we are putting a bat station, which is 2 4-chamber boxes at Basin 1, which is going to be amongst the trees. Another land station that is going to be at the roundabout. And there's going to be 2 bat stations on either side of the blind. That is, you can see the current one there. We are going to be taking it down and then putting a new one in its place, and then putting one on the other side. Because as Suzanne's noted, that when you have moms carrying pups, this is the best route to make sure that we are making sure they don't have far to fly. Also, too, with working with Suzanne, we are going to be part of the bat monitoring program. So we'll be following with White Nose. We do have documentation when I did site visit with Suzanne that we have little brown bats, bigger brown bats, and there's one other species that we're trying to figure out. but we will be doing that once we do some guano collection, and then I send it off to collect or get the DNA tested, and then we can figure out everything that's going on. So we're going to be part of the provincial monitoring program for the bats and white nose. The native bee program that was just started this April. We are furthering the guiding principle of conservation here at Frank Lake, and we all know native bees are struggling due to habitat, chemicals, and also other environmental pressures. So we worked with the Native Bee Council, and we are also a part of the provincial bee monitoring program, which will start in 2029. We just missed it because they do it every 5 years. So what we've done is we put 5 bee boxes at Basin 1 and 5 bee boxes at Basin 3. And every year we'll be collecting data, and that will be submitted to the Native Bee Council. And then on the provincial eyes, will be doing that too. Because also too, they lack data for this area. So when the committee reached out to them, they were very eager to work with us in developing our bee program. Biodiversity surveys. So we have a botanist specialist on our committee. They will also be doing plant surveys, bird surveys. We are also documenting all of the biodiversity here so we can build upon what has been lost. To date, iNaturalist has 8,709 observations. 386 species have been documented, and 1,058 identifiers, and 333 observers for the Frank Lake South, because there's actually a Frank Lake North, IBA and KBA on the iNaturalist. So this is very encouraging with other citizen-based scientists also collecting data and submitting it. So we're very happy to get all the data we need because we want to keep this place protected. Well, even though it's not protected, but we want to keep gaining the knowledge and how important this is. So maybe in the future we can get this area protected. Bird surveys. We use eBirds to document all of our bird species. Bird surveys are conducted during spring and fall migrations to track bird populations, detect changes, and guide conservation efforts. We do have some volunteers that are doing that currently, so we're very happy. We are also expand the future expansions, so we're hopeful to do more bird-specific species documentation. We are hoping in the future for grant funding to get a Motus tower and do some banding, so that way we can join the network so we get a broader idea of what birds are traveling through this area, and then we can see, okay, how far south are they going? How far north are they going if they're using Frank Lake just as a stopover site and not as a brewing site for the chicks and that. The most notable sighting that we have had here last year, in which I was so happy, was a pink-footed goose. I think that was the biggest talk amongst bird lovers here in Alberta, was Frank Lake having the first sight of the pink-footed goose. So once again, it shows conservation is important, and also too long-term, even though you don't see it now, but you'll see it later on with different species coming in that you may never know that is here. So I was really excited about that. We are going to be a part of the invasive and native plant program. So we currently had a proposal before the Alberta Native Plant Council. They have returned and they have accepted our proposal. So they will be working with our botany expert for Frank Lake. So what we are doing is that it's going to take about 2 years. We're going to document all the plant species here at Frank Lake. So we have a library of what is here, what isn't here. Also, too, we're going to be mapping out if we have any invasive plants, and then working with the invasive plant or the invasive council to get them removed, and then vice versa, putting in more native plants. We are also going to be working with the Alberta Native Plant Council for when the islands are almost completed for rehabilitation. That Island 1, which is closest to the outflow, will probably be rehabilitated back to with proper native plants from the get-go. So we're having different types of plants, also following with promoting flowering plants because we also want to support our bee program. So we're all working together to keep Frank Lake up and snuff. So it's not just one organization, it's a group of us that are in so much passionate, got love regarding Frank Lake. So there's more going on in the background than what people think regarding a lot of the work going on at Frank Lake. Currently, there are bird platforms at Frank Lake. There are two at Basin 1 and one at Basin 3. They were back in the day used for hawks, but because we don't quite have the network, like the lack of trees and that for them, we have decided through the committee we're going to be repairing, which that can wait because we got a survey done of those. They do need to get re-welded, so that will have to be done. But what we are going to be doing is we're going to be putting purple martin boxes on. So we're promoting purple martins. Now, I've talked to some individuals who have worked in the area that also knew Greg. They're also doing the Bluebird program that is also at Frank Lake. They wanted the purple martins because they see them here. They fly through. So the committee decided, well, we have infrastructure here. Let's just promote them and utilize them. So that's what we're doing with the platforms. And once again, bird-friendly cities, which is also part of the Purple Martins. We just recently got the grant funding to promote our Purple Martins. So we are very happy that we met those requirements for the Purple Martins. So we have 3 boxes that I currently have in my possession. I'm just waiting for the ground to harden up because those platforms are 17 feet up in the air. So I need ladders. So we're waiting for the ground. Each Purple Martin house will have 16 chambers for individuals, and then we will be monitoring them and promoting Purple Martins at Frank Lake. And that data will be sent to the Purple Martin committee. I think it's the committee. I can't remember offhand, so my apologies. Another big contentious issue at Frank Lake is the Persian carp. We all know the Persian carp is an introduced species at Frank Lake, and we have years where they're not too bad, but in other years they are bad because they are a very they produce very quickly and they don't have to have the same type of fish species to reproduce, and it's just very, very busy. Especially in the winter time when the lake is frozen and the outflow area isn't frozen over, you can just take a scoop of them, and it's just that. So we are also with that, we are dealing with people fishing and dumping them. So that's a big issue. We are trying to find different ways of getting rid of the Persian carp, but we also are trying to find a balance that if we lose the Persian carp, we also lose the bird species like the pelicans, the cormorants that like eat them. So it's a catch-22 what we do right now. But the biggest part right now is management of the carp because, like I said, once again, the carp some years can you can't not see them because they're just so dense. We also are dealing with people trying to just dump them, of course, wherever, and then that creates a big mess. Ducks Unlimited is also going to be updating the signage at the outflow for the Persian carp. So if you want to go fishing, even though they don't promote it specifically, because that also opens up a whole can of worms with twine and everything else getting with the ducks and that. So that's why they don't promote fishing specifically at Frank Lake, but they can't stop people fishing it because they also want the fish removed. So it's a catch-22. So we're working together, and my supervisor, Maddie, has gone to, I think, the meeting in Olds regarding the invasive species to try and figure out what we can do with that, because this isn't going to be a solution that's going to be easy or quick. It's going to be long-term, and it's going to maybe take some funding and that to try and figure out what we can do with the Persian carp. Frank Lake now has its own dedicated webpage, so you can find it at Nature Calgary under Frank Lake. This webpage is the most up-to-date information with contact, events, fundraising, conservation projects, and update, and also how to get to Frank Lake because we lack signage. So we are moving forward on different fronts to promote this area that was under recognized, to make sure, because of how, once again, how busy it gets, also the economic benefits it provides in different fronts. It's very, very important that we know and recognize how important this area is. Questions and answers, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Amy. That was a great presentation. Councillor Nychuk, do you mind if I take over just chairing this part? Because I think we want to hear, the whole idea of this was to hear, to see this presentation, but also hear from the other stakeholders. So I have a couple of people that also will probably need to do some speaking to this as well. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine with me. Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you, Amy, for that. That was great. Does anybody have any questions for her at this moment? I'm not seeing everybody, so just speak up if you have any questions. Okay.
Shirley Pickering here.
Okay, Shirley. Yes, I was actually going to ask you to step in and give us your thoughts on everything that's going on with Frank Lake.
Well, first of all, I want to say, Amy, your group is undertaking, as someone who's worked in watershed work. You have really undertaken a very ambitious, and credit to, it is great to see that there is an interest in the community directly in Frank Lake. I think that's been one thing that's been needed for a long time, is an actual people in the Frank Lake area having an interest, and it's good to see that you're doing that. I guess one thing I find a bit peculiar is I'm just not quite clear on why Ducks Unlimited, who is the landowner and the manager of the lake, cannot allocate funding to the lake, because they themselves also in 2022, through our Highwood PAC process and dealing with Frank Lake, they committed to a number of projects that they were looking at and in addressing the health of Frank Lake. And in particular, the flow patterns and some structuring changes in flow patterns to maximize the use of the lake in assimilating and dealing with nutrients. So I don't know, are you aware of that project work? When you're referring to Maddie, are you referring to Madison?
Yes, okay. She is my supervisor who I talked. Now, both Maddie and I have been working on that. So I am given permission to speak on this. So and it was also in the slide, is Ducks Unlimited cannot specifically, because this is part of their governance, cannot allocate funds specifically to Frank Lake, even though Maddie herself wants specific funds allocated to Frank Lake. It's very hard because you have board members higher up that are very, I can't speak to her, but my impression are very old-fashioned. So anytime, and because of given the economic uncertainties right now, they've had to cut back funding, and also they've had to lay off people. So they have lots and lots of sites. I think, if I remember correctly, here in Alberta alone, they have about 300 sites. And all funding they get goes into a big pot for all their sites across Canada. So like everybody else with the economic downturn and that's going on, they're also feeling pressures. So this is why the committee has stepped in to help with that, because we're also giving them also support with more eyes and ears on the ground. Now, regarding the water monitoring and that, they don't do it. I've already spoken to Maddie on that when I was gathering information for that outflow for us when we were doing, we are in tender right now for contractors for the island repair. They have nothing for data. So the only data they have right now is the size of Frank Lake and its drainage. Everything else regarding that is either through Alberta Environment or other organizations that they don't do. So that's as far as I can speak on that because I've been personally involved on that. I hope that helps answer some of your questions.
Yeah, I guess that does clarify it to a certain extent. So, so what they are looking for in your committee is that you raise funds. So we're the project that we're involved with the University of Lethbridge and with Cargill is raising funds to be able to do the monitoring related to the water quality and what's happening in the lake, as effluent, which is one of the projects was to improve the effluent coming in, and Cargill has been a huge supporter and donator and been carrying out many activities to deal with that problem from their perspective. And I understand that the town of High River is also coming on board to do some of that as well. But I guess, so is Ducks Unlimited relying on you to be a fundraiser? And that funding goes funneled through Nature Calgary. Is that what you're saying? They're your fund manager or your fund agent through which you go without you having to be a charitable organization?
So basically our structure is where, as once again, Ducks Unlimited cannot allocate funds specifically for Frank Lake. This is where the committee steps in, where we can collect funds for different projects, different education projects, conservation projects, going forward, because we have the ability, unlike Ducks, to do the fundraising specifically for Frank Lake. So with that, we apply for grant funding and everything going forward. Now, regarding the water quality in that, Ducks hasn't been monitoring that, and this is the first I have heard about there being a requirement for that, because anything that I've heard and spoke to regarding that was strictly from Alberta Environment's kind of prerogative, because Ducks Unlimited doesn't have the ability that I know of from speaking with Maddie to do the constant water monitoring, because they are so short-staffed. And with their main office for this area being in Strathmore, that's almost a 2-hour drive. So they've relied on the committee to do specific projects, but regarding the water monitoring, no, we've not been requested or have been approached regarding that front. So this information that you have said is completely new to a certain extent. But regarding the monitoring, no, we don't do the monitoring unless we are requested and we are able to apply for grant monitoring or grant funding for that. So regarding that front, I don't know, because Ducks told me they don't really do that kind of monitoring because of the lack of staffing. So if there are interest in people wanting the committee to step in on that front, we are more than happy to work on that front with different organizations and to do that, but we have not been approached on that front on the committee side.
Okay, I was just trying to understand, because there's a number, the whole role of Frank Lake is kind of multi-purpose in that on one hand, it's being managed for waters to be managed for bird habitat of various kinds associated with waterfowl and shoreline and etc. And at the same time, we're also managing it for effluent simulation. And so I just wondered to what extent your group, so just so I understood what it was your group was doing, and what happened. I guess one of the things that can happen is you can have all these projects and get things going, and then long term, as you know, when you're dealing with anything environmental, you're talking in decades generally for change and improvement. So I guess it is about that capability of being able to continue to do the many things that you're undertaking and maintain them in good condition. And so that's why I was asking about your money source and what your overall and your priority intentions, and I think you've clarified that. So Yeah, I guess from the perspective, I am a bit concerned. I lived on down at the Basin 3. The 594 bridge crossing. We lived on the Little Bow heading sort of southwest of there. And so one of the I did a lot of observing and monitoring at that bridge and at that end of the lake. And I guess I do have a certain amount of concern on promoting what I would call public interest and ecotourism concepts, which I can see you could lead into here with your various tours and a lot of interest, that you end up loving Frank Lake too much with the public. And so I would just wonder about how you are going to control, because what I saw was at the south end was people going in, bringing their dogs, letting the dogs run all over the place. And during fledgling time, especially for the shorebirds and the grassland nesting birds. And so it's such a big project, and you have a large, two main accesses at the top and at the bottom. And I just wondered, in your promotion of the lake, that whole responsibility of making sure that the sensitivity of the lake and the overall objections of IBA and KBA and of the lake health itself, how many people on your committee are capable of doing all of this? And since we have an environment representative here, too bad Ducks isn't there, but I would wonder about environment's input on this movement towards making Frank Lake a bigger feature and handling public. And that also relates to the fishing. That in itself has created a problem. So I just bring these up because these seem to be management concerns long-term for what you're doing. I think it's incredible what you're doing, but these are just some of the things.
Thanks, Shirley. I would like to actually maybe ask Reva Cameron to step in now and give us some, maybe clarify an explanation on how the commission works and what role we are in Frank Lake management and our partnership with Ducks Unlimited. Because it would seem that there's probably some concern that there's a lot of things just going off in different fields, and we need to know a bit more about how the management's supposed to work and how everyone else is supposed to be involved in that.
Yeah.
I'm just going to interrupt. Sorry, Chair. I have to go. I have another meeting at 11:30, so I have to step out. So okay. I'll be leaving now. Thank you.
So with respect to the Foothills Regional Services Commission Frank Lake portion, which has 3 members, the town of Okotoks, the town of High River, and Foothills County. And the commission has hired the town of High River to operate the pipeline and the pump system that sends the effluent out to Frank Lake. Mm-hmm. Now, Ducks Unlimited, when this was put together, Ducks Unlimited agreed to manage much of the lands outside of the water body. And so there's a substantial amount of land that is in Ducks Unlimited's name, but there's also a substantial amount that's in Foothills County's name, Basin 3 especially. So the purpose of the commission, of course, is to continue to operate the pipeline and the effluent out there, and to also be part of the discussion on the the water quality, especially with respect to the outflow. Side issue, we were ready to take garbage bins out to Frank Lake so people would throw the carp in the bin instead of on the ground. And anyway, all of a sudden there weren't very many carp around, so it wasn't necessary. The question I have when we come back to funding by Ducks Unlimited, are you aware if Ducks Unlimited is generating income from the farming of the land that they own, plus the land that's owned by Foothills County? It's just a question if they've rented those lands out for farming purposes and if they get an income from that, just because funding came up. So the commission, of course, there's a number of things on go, like the study that Shirley Pickering has indicated on water quality that Alberta Environment, University of Lethbridge are involved in. But also there's work being done on future effluent from Cargill and from the town and from the county, and how that might increase in the future. And I have to say, I had not heard of your group until there was a request before Foothills County Council, and wasn't aware how active that you are out there. So I guess from today, I would say there needs to be more interaction between your group and the commission, so that we both are aware of what each other is up to.
Would it not, sorry here,
no, that's fine.
Would it also not be important for Foothills County or this commission to have some sort of recording of ducks turning over the control of this to this other group, so we know like who we're supposed to be like there needs to be some paperwork to follow up with all of this, right?
Yes, definitely. We need to better communicate with each other what is happening. Just these designations, Frank Lake, I would say I don't think the commission or myself were aware of these designations having been requested or put in place for Frank Lake.
Yeah, I think that's what I was more speaking to. So we need some more, so we need some records of this taking place and
yes.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I step in?
Go ahead.
Okay, so basically what is going on in our MOU is that basically Ducks Unlimited is still the landowner. They still take control of the land. They are also still responsible for the road maintenance. They're still responsible for the infrastructures. That includes the duck lines, the boardwalk, and everything else. The committee is just stepping in on the front of conservation projects and also being more eyes and ears on the ground for Frank Lake, because once again, Ducks Unlimited is very limited because of the way their funding structure is. Now, what was in place back in the day when this first all started was probably all there, but over time with the changes with different governance, different employees and everything else, things have just basically gotten lost because there has been requests the committee has put forth to Ducks Unlimited for different information, and they just don't have that data anymore. So once again, we're starting from scratch from certain information because Ducks Unlimited throughout the time has lost some information, or they just don't do it. And then the previous caretaker, Mr. Greg Wagner, who also was very hands-on at Frank Lake, when he suddenly passed away, all that data was lost. So this is why we're stepping in so that none of the data is lost, then we're doing our own fundraising to get Frank Lake back up, because under Ducks, it has been neglected for that, because under that right now, Ducks Unlimited only did the road once a year. And because of that, the road right now is in horrible, horrible condition, where normally the gate would be open right now and I would be letting people in. But because the road is so bad and we've got washout areas, I cannot open the gate to the public because it's not safe because of the lack of maintenance. Now, I did talk to my supervisor about a bigger budget at Frank Lake. Right now, April is their month of doing budgeting, so I haven't heard anything yet. I am going to be having an end of month basically with my supervisor, but that's going to have to be put off because she's very sick, and then I can gather that. If need be, I can talk to the president of Nature Calgary and see if I can provide you guys with a copy of the MOU, because I think that would be very beneficial to everybody here. So then you guys also know what's going on at Frank Lake, and you know how the governance is between Ducks Unlimited and Nature Calgary and the committee. So as I said, I support you guys, because trust me, there's so much lack of information because of different people doing their own different things. This is why the committee is stepping in, so we can stop having all the misinformation and we're trying to bridge everything together for one source. So this is why I've also stepped in as also being the Ducks Unlimited volunteer and also the committee chair. So we have a central point for communication, for getting information, and also for gathering data so that we can all work together to get this place back up to where it should be. Because once again, because of years of neglect and the changeovers, people not knowing anything, this is why my passion for Frank Lake has basically blossomed into what I'm doing now, because I love this area so much. So I hope we can work together.
Okay, thank you. So back to Harry, should we have a memorandum of understanding or have a document refreshed with Ducks Unlimited for this committee or commission? Sorry.
Yes, I would agree with that statement that we need to. It appears the relationship with Ducks Unlimited has changed, and so we need to go back through our records and hopefully we didn't lose that information in the flood, but we will search for that. The one thing I would mention, and I may get myself in trouble with the county on this one, is the county used to, I shouldn't say because I wear two hats, but anyway, the county used to get a request to maintain the road going in there. And so county council would consider those requests, and we used to send our equipment in there to fix the road. So that is one thing your committee could do, is make a request to the county to have a look at road maintenance going into the site.
Okay, thanks, Harry. I'm wondering if a representative from Alberta Environment would like to speak with their thoughts on the Frank Lake.
Hi, I'm Cecilia Chung. I am the acting resource manager for the South Saskatchewan region. My base position and mostly how I've interacted with Frank Lake in the past is I'm also the water quality specialist for the Bow Basin. I will first point out that I am not part of the regulatory group, so I won't speak on that side of things. But certainly, regarding to the water quality piece, Shirley has raised some of the projects that have generated some water quality data. There is work from Cargill that was initiated with requests from the regulatory group and discussions with the regulatory group, and certainly we are happy to participate in discussions and provide support going forward in whatever areas that may require additional water quality information. We are limited in what water quality monitoring we can actively partake in it at this time, but we do have extensive historical knowledge of water quality data from the past, which could still be quite helpful.
Okay, thank you. Would anybody else at this time have any questions or like to their thoughts?
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
I see some Kendall has their hand up before I speak.
Okay, sorry, I missed that. Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Kendall. You have to unmute. Oh, there.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Amy. Very nice to finally meet you. Looking forward to my tour of Frank Lake. I feel really bad that I am lacking in knowledge of what's going on out there, but thank you for the great presentation. I will be out there. Anyways, who pays you, Amy?
No, nobody. I do this because I love it.
Oh my gosh, you need to be paid.
That's what my husband says.
You need to be paid, Amy. This is amazing what you're doing. Thank you so much for your volunteerism to protect the environment and the resources. And I look forward to meeting you. And if there's a committee on Frank Lake, I will sign up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kendall. Anyone else would like to speak? Surely you were going to step in.
Yes, I guess I just one point of clarity. Is Frank Lake considered, so environment is is sort of the umbrella regulator over wetlands, and Frank Lake is a wetland, although unique. Is it considered to be a private, because the environment was involved in all of the approval process for all of this for Frank Lake to become what it is today. And so I guess I'm just wondering, is Frank Lake still considered under the umbrella of environment in terms of as a wetland, or is it a private? Is it now Ducks Unlimited private? Or municipalities private? I'm just trying to understand, where does the regulatory process fit in here?
Did someone want to speak to that from environment?
I'll give it a stab, but as I noted earlier, I'm not from the regulatory group, but can certainly bring someone from that group into conversation, maybe outside of this meeting, if that needs further clarification. But my understanding is that our regulatory system manages kind of the end of pipe discharge into Frank Lake. So there are regulatory approvals that Cargill and the town of High River do adhere to, and there's that whole process with that. In terms of kind of the Frank Lake environment and the downstream, I think that just kind of falls under our goal and mandate of ensuring that receiving waters are not adversely impacted, and assisting our approval holders to manage their discharges, as well as being aware of what the impacts are on the downstream water bodies. So not quite sure if I'm answering the full question. That is about the limit of what I'm able to answer at this time. But again, happy to bring the right people to the table.
Yeah, it might not be a bad idea for us to hear from someone in the regulatory to find out exactly where they start and where they end, as far as overseeing Frank Lake.
Hi, Benita, Suzanne here. There's no hand on my screen. If I could just speak.
Yes, please. Yes.
Thank you. Again, thank you for all the information that's being shared here. I'm just having a bit of background in participating in the Highwood Management Plan Public Advisory Committee, and Shirley's vast knowledge on, and also the other participants in ongoing studies and monitoring. There is quite a lot of dynamics here that are missing from this conversation, and I think it's really important that we at some point bring that into acquaint, and I think that was mentioned earlier, that we acquaint everybody with each other, and so many important functions that Frank Lake is a part of, that we don't kind of go head off in one direction or another direction without considering the full picture. So I just want to mention that it'd be likely very hopeful and helpful as a next step that all the members would understand what each other's roles are, and then going forward that we would be able to identify that. And then I think it'd be much more easy to, if there's any requests coming into the county or to this this commission, that we would understand who is participating and what's going on as far as their role, and perhaps funding aspects as well. So I'm just feeling like we have quite a gap in discussions, and so hopefully we can fill it in. We have some very good background here as well, because we do have Cargill, we do have Town of High River, we do have Alberta Environment, and we do have Shirley, as there's been numerous aspects that are under review right now. And I don't know if they would like to maybe mention those now or save those for another meeting, but I feel like there's way more to the story that we need to hear as well. Thank you. That's everything.
Thank you, Councillor. Oh, yes, feel the same. So perhaps this is a meeting that needs to be taken up again. Sorry, is there any? Yeah, anyone? Go ahead.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Rob Seward here. Sorry, I can't raise my hand either. Just to answer Mr. Reva Cameron's question, yes, Ducks Unlimited does get money from the lease of the properties there. They every 3 years they go out for tenders for a 3-year lease on the lands. That may even include the properties that the county owns. I'm not sure.
It does.
Yeah. I guess the one comment I have is, Ducks Unlimited is obviously the key player here, and who they're held accountable to seems to be kind of a gap. Because I've been involved, as Harry has, and a number of others, for quite a long time in the Frank Lake project, from a lot of interest by environment. Alan Petney, way back then, who was part of setting up this lake, was from environment, and Ducks Unlimited. And it just seems to me that the structure of accountability here still needs to be sorted out and clarified. That's just my opinion. And I think it would be really helpful for all the good things that can be done, and for the effective management of Frank Lake to meet the many goals that it has to have. And I appreciate what Suzanne has said about a need probably for further discussion on that.
If I may, I can, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Oh. Go ahead.
I was just.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to mention that, it is the commission's meeting. And there'll be further discussion amongst the members as to sort of what direction they want to give to myself as their only employee, and move forward. But I would suggest there's probably a need for Amy and myself to meet, have a discussion. There was a question earlier about who owns what, and the lake itself is public lands. Bed and Shore, it would be in dispute. When we started putting effluent out to Frank Lake, there was no Frank Lake. It was dry, and had been dry for quite a few years. Boundaries along lakes can always be iffy as to who owns what. But I would say the majority of the water is the province. They can claim Bed and Shore, and the rest is privately held either by Ducks or by the county, or by Hatarian Brethren of High River, I believe, is a large landowner in that area. So I guess the commission is going to have a discussion with respect to next steps.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree. And is there anybody else that would like to comment that we haven't heard from yet?
Yeah, this is Dale LaGrange from Cargill.
Hi, Dale.
Oh, well, as Harry and Shirley mentioned, we've been heavily involved with Frank Lake and ducks. So I just wanted to clarify a few things and ask a question. Number one, the first question is, this slide, is this going to be, or this presentation is going to be available to us? Are you going to send that out? Because I won't remember everything, I guarantee you. So I'd like a copy of that if I could.
I'll be more than happy to provide it. I'll have to just export it as a PDF if you're okay with that.
Yep.
And just provide me your contact information. Like I said, I'm very open and supportive to talk to anybody that's interested in Frank Lake, wants information, because in a way I'm doing double duty to a certain extent on duck side and also on the committee sides. And so the more information we can work together, the better we can help get Frank Lake more recognized, and also to prevent the lack of information that has happened over the years.
Okay. All right.
And that's good. The other thing that I was going to say, I'd be very curious to see what percentage of Duck's total budget come from in and around Frank Lake, and then what percentage of their capital projects or anything like that goes back into it. Be interesting to see.
I can't comment
I know
because that's
you
beyond my volunteer range.
I am just throwing that out there as a wishful thought. So we have been heavily involved with a lot of things going on at Frank Lake, as has Ducks. And, while they don't monitor or set requirements, they do influence and have influenced Alberta environment in helping set requirements in any permits. So I just wanted to clarify that. And that's about all I got.
Okay. Thank you for your thoughts. Is there anybody else that would like to make comments?
I was just going to suggest, Amy, that you provide it to ourselves, and then we can send it out to everybody quite easily instead of having to provide all the contact information to yourself.
Do you mind if I send it to Benita?
Generally, I'm looking for I think Courtney Russell, who sent you out the invite.
Yeah, please. Yeah, just forward it to her.
Okay,
thank you, Harry. So I'm not seeing any other comments or anything. So at this point, I'd like to close this discussion and go back to our regular meeting. And if Councillor Mychuk could take over again, please. Councillor Nychuk?
Hi there.
Yeah, we're going to go back into our regular meeting.
I just want to say thank you. It's been a very interesting meeting, and I'll sign off. And I guess you're expecting those of us who are on the Frank Lake to sign off. Is that the procedure you want to see, or?
Thank you, Shirley, for joining us today. And yes, we're going to go back into our regular commission meeting now.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Suzanne, here, last comment for me is it sounded like a great idea that you all had on doing a next step and maybe something to have your only employee to follow up on this to maybe put together what you need to look at next. Thank you very much for inviting us to attend today. Very much appreciated.
Thank you, Deputy Revol. Thank you.
If I may step in, Mr. Chair?
Hi there. I think I'm connected again.
Okay. Just regarding going back into the regular meeting, the Regional Services Commission meeting was adjourned.
Oh, sorry.
That was just the landfill portion of it.
Correct.
Yes.
So this is the Frank Lake portion. So I guess we'd have to go back. I guess you can count us back into live meeting.
Yeah, we never adjourned the meeting.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's right. We didn't.
Okay. If I may, we are still currently live.
Oh, we're good then.
Yes.
Well,
thank you.
thank you. My apologies for disconnecting and reconnecting. I'm on my way to town hall because I've got a mayor's meeting at 12 o'clock that I'm trying to get to. So I don't have the agenda in front of me, but we've got an accounts payable that I think we should jump to on the next item on the agenda. And in terms of water table and open discussion, I would just like to put the motion on the floor for the accounts payable, and then I'll step out. For the rest of it, Benita, you'll be the lone soldier carrying the flag, I guess. But there won't be anything for us requiring quorum other than this accounts payable piece. So is everybody okay if we do that? And then I can, my apologies, but then I can carry on to my next meeting.
Okay, so accounts payable in the minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll give the motion for the accounts payable. I've looked them over and they look good.
Okay, so then we've got accounts payable for April 27th, 2026 in the amount of $46.94.41, I believe.
Yes.
And Councillor Estes, thank you for bringing that motion to the floor. I am in favor if you are, and
yes.
That will be passed.
Okay. And
thank you
do you want me to do acceptance of the minutes?
Oh, we didn't do that piece either. Yeah. Okay. No. Yes, please. If you'll put that motion on the floor to accept the minutes as presented in today's agenda, we can put that motion and pass it as well.
I put that motion on the floor as presented.
Thank you very much. I'm assuming you and I aren't opposed, so I'll give you a moment to speak up if you are. Otherwise, we'll pass that one as well.
No, I'm good.
Alrighty. Well, thank you. And Benita, if you don't mind, taking over in the last couple of discussion points then, and then we can, then you can, take that on and then close the meeting. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Sorry that I'm transitioning. Have a great day.
Yes, we'll see you.
Sorry about that. I forgot that we had opened the meeting. I didn't realize we'd clicked. Oh, okay.
No.
So do we want to discuss further meetings, how we will proceed with that?
Well, I would just suggest that the only thing we can do because we don't have quorum is to adjourn the meeting. But we'll put this item on the next meeting, which is on May 25th, for discussion by the three members.
Okay.
And on everything else, everything is going well. The pump still isn't repaired, but it appears it's going to be repaired under warranty. So that's good news.
Okay, that is good
really,
news.
Yeah, that appears all I would have anyway.
Okay. And we don't have any roundtable discussion. So the next meeting is May 25th. So I guess I'll call to adjourn the meeting.
That's
11:58.
That's a long one.
It was.
Yeah.